Yes, sir. We're back here. RPS UFC show back with you today. It's Friday night, not normally our thing, Friday nights, but hey, you got to do what you got to do to get the winners out. And I got my boy Dan with me, hopefully to bring some winners on this interesting little UFC card we got tomorrow night here. Dan, how you feeling after a couple weeks off for you? I haven't seen you in a couple weeks. How's things going?
Everything's good, man. It's good to be back home. It's good to be back on the show. Last week's pay-per-view was fun. I got to watch that on a plane. I got to scare the shit out of everyone around me when Kai Car Friends knocked down Steve Urseg. I like yelled. I went, ah! And we had just landed, and everybody kind of like fucking like jumped out of their seat a little. AJ had to be like, he's watching UFC. Like, it's okay. Everybody had a good laugh.
They're about to divert the plane back to wherever you were coming from or something like that. They're like, this guy's crazy. We gotta send him back or something like that. But that's awesome. That's fun. Obviously my favorite was Dan Hooker coming through for all the true believers of Dan Hooker in that plus, what was he, like plus 295 or whatever he was, like just the insane number. Yeah, 305, whatever you got him at. It was absolutely insane. I tried to tell people I got made fun of on this show by Big T. Not as much JBC. Well, he might have called me stupid, but like not like a ton of making fun of. But like Tony was the instigator. He was making fun of me, and I had to own him. Of course, too, by the end of it, he's texting me like, let's go. And I'm like, yeah, fuck you. Let's go, though. So, yeah, it was it was a fun card, honestly. It was a really fun card. I think I got like 2 or 3 fights at most wrong on the whole card. So it was a pretty good card for me, at least overall. I don't know how you did. I know you were away, so you probably didn't play as much as you normally do, but it was a nice little card for us. On the show on Saturday, JBC gave out a plus 600 submission winner, Dricus by sub, plus 600. So that was a nice little call. I know Big T liked Aguiar as a dog. I obviously like Dan Hooker. My girl, she couldn't come through for us in the 3rd round. I'm blanking on her name now, but she did exactly what I thought she was going to do. Who am I thinking of, Dan? The one chick fight that I'm thinking of.
I don't know, man. I'm already on to this week. I got to tell you.
I'm totally blanking right now, but she fought Luana Santos. She was the dog. I can't remember.
Casey O'Neill.
Yeah, our girl Casey O'Neill. She came through for us, but she couldn't get that finish, though. I wanted that finish. I had 3rd round finish plus 2,600 or something, like 2,500. And she just didn't have like the power in the end to get it done. But she won that fight. All in all, though, awesome card. Got to bring it to this card, though, and talk this, like I said, interesting card. We got a lot of unknown fights. If you're watching The Ultimate Fighter, which, Dan, I know you're not like big into. I'm not really big into it either. I don't watch it a ton. Now, I have watched some of these guys fight, and obviously from just like looking at some of the tape. But I think we got like 3 of those fights here.
Yeah, it looks like 3. I'm not sure one is a proper Ultimate Fighter fight. I think one of them is a replacement guy. I'm really not sure. You said this card was interesting. That's like kind of that's like the polite way of putting it. It's like there's a lot of low-level shit on this card.
But it's like almost all low-level shit. So like there are going to be dogs that just come out of nowhere, and they're going to be like fun dogs. I think personally, So we'll get into it. I got some takes for some of these cards. I obviously like to find some big dogs we can get behind, and I think I have a couple. So we'll get into it. We'll break it down and get all the winners here, but. Let's start off with the first fight on the card here. We've got Wang Kong versus Victoria Leonardo. Kong is a minus like 1,300 favorite or whatever, like absolutely insane. Dan, I don't know if you've watched a ton of her fights, but I think this line is insanely too wide. The level of competition she's fought is very suspect at best. Now she is 5-0, so she hasn't lost, obviously. But when I say suspect, that's like the kind way of putting it with the people she's fought. You go to the other side and let's look at who Leonardo has fought. She has fought in Natalia Silva, probably one of the best strikers in this, like in the division. She's nasty. Then she fought Bohm, whatever, big deal, not that great. But then Gatto, she loses. Gatto, not that bad, and she broke her arm. I don't know if you remember that. She broke her arm in that fight, and they had to stop the fight going in. She actually said she wanted to keep fighting, and they were like, no, the guy felt the break in the arm. And I guess she had broken that like same spot or similar spot before against Mana Farhat, who was another girl she fought. That was her other loss. So literally she's fought Silva, lost, Gatto, lost, Farhat, lost. And then she fought, her other fight was Aaron Blanchfield. Her losses are insane, the level of competition. So this girl is losing a lot of fights recently outside of the Bohm win, but she's losing them to pretty damn good female competitors here. So I think this is a very interesting fight. And I honestly think that I'm going to take the dog here in this fight. I'm going to take a shot on Leonardo at this wide line, 6,600 to Dan. I would not be shocked if she won this fight here. Wong is very like low volume. So I think if Leonardo just does exactly what she did to Bohm in the fight she won, where it's just like she gets attached to her, she makes it dirty, and she kind of makes her fight her fight, I think she could, kind of win a sloppy 3-round like split decision here. So I'm on the Leonardo side with the level of competition, going for her and against Wong. But where are you at?
I'm on the Kong side. I don't think Leonardo is going to be able to keep up physically. I think Kong is going to be much stronger and is going to overwhelm her. The thing you see, like, I didn't get to watch a whole ton of tape on Kong, but what you do see is like she's very aggressive. She throws a lot of volume. She's like aggressively pursuing takedowns. She's just out there to get you. And Leonardo, like if you watch the Natalia Silva fight, like it was extremely one-sided. She got the shit kicked out of her, like, quite frankly. I think you're going to see something similar here. I just don't think physically she can keep up with Kong. I know the level of competition is extremely suspect, and Leonardo has fought better competition, but like she's been getting beat pretty handedly. I think you're going to see a repeat here. And I think really the main question for DFS at least is, can Kong pay off the $9,600 tag? I think she can. It's going to need to be a quick win bonus. But if you look at like the top of the board here, you've got Shabazian and Rees. But like you said before, there's a lot to like kind of on the low end. There's a lot of live dogs. So I don't think salary is going to be super restricted. We've got some really good mid-range options too. So I like Kong quite a bit. My initial runs, I'm coming in over. I have it projected at 31% owned, and I'm actually coming in over that, which I'll probably pull back on some. But I really like Kong here. I think Leonardo, you can make an argument for her, the arguments that you made, and like Kong, like she's pretty untested on the mat. Like we haven't seen anybody put up too much resistance or like do anything offensively against her down there. So could Leonardo surprise us?
And that's where Leonardo wants to be, honestly. She wants to get you up against the cage, body lock, and then she uses the trips to get you down. That's how she won her Contender Series fight. That's how she got the ground and pound victory in her Contender Series fight a few years ago. And that's how, she kind of finished out the fight in her win against Bohm. And, I think that's how she wins a decision here, if she does win. And I don't know why I keep calling this girl Wong when it's playing, but and Kong, but we'll just go with it anyways. But I just don't think this girl or any girl like this, like low level like this, should be a minus 12 or 1,300 favorite. That's insane in MMA, especially when she's fought the way worse competition. And this girl's actually fought really good competition. Whether she's getting finished or not, that's a different story. She's still fighting the much better competition here. And I do think she has that path of, getting her to the ground and testing that ground game. And what if she can't handle it? Like, what if she gets on her back and she doesn't know what to do? You know what I mean? So those are all questions that, as a minus 1,200 favorite, I'll take my chances with the dog. And if I lose, I lose. So more of a bet than a DFS play, but I'm going to sprinkle a little bit just because she is 6,600. But I do think this is a decision fight. So, yeah. All right. We're split there. You're on the Kong side. I got Leonardo. Let's go to one of those unknown fights here. We've got Nathan Fletcher against, I'm not even going to try and pronounce this guy's first name, Ramaska. Here, 7,800 for Ramaska and Fletcher, 8,400 on DraftKings. Dan, I'll throw it to you here first. What do you got with Fletcher and Ramaska?
Yeah, so this is basically like a grappler wrestler versus striker matchup. These two guys, I believe Fletcher actually lost his Ultimate Fighter fight, so I'm not sure I'm not sure what's at stake in this matchup, if anything. But basically, yeah, I think this Ramaska guy, he is pretty deficient in the wrestling and grappling department, which is where Fletcher wants to take the fight. He wants to take you down. He wants to take you down. He wants to hold you down. Let's see. I watched a couple of his fights today. He seemed to kind of not be super active when on the ground, but he seems to have shored that up in his most recent fights. He's pretty dangerous on the mat. He likes rear naked chokes. So that's what he's trying to do. And I feel like this is a really bad matchup for Ramaska because in all the stuff that I watched on him, when he gets taken down, he stays down. He's not really able to get up. And I think he's there to be submitted. The thing is, I think on the feet, he's a bit more dangerous. Fletcher has been hurt before. He can be finished. And I just think, like we said earlier in the show, there's a lot of low-level fights here. There's a lot of variance in these low-level fights. So I like both sides of this. I think it is going to end inside the distance. Either Ramaska is going to knock Fletcher out or Fletcher is going to he's going to get him to the mat and eventually find a submission. I picked Fletcher. I think that's the most likely way that this is going to play out. But I could also see Ramaska. I could also see him knocking out Fletcher. He has shown to be not the greatest striker. It is coming along. I did see improvement fight over fight for Fletcher, but Ramaska, he's not quite as technically sound, I would say, but he's aggressive and he swings he's trying to end the fight when he throws.
Yeah, the problem is when you kind of overthrow like that, you get sucked into someone who's trying to take you down. It makes it a little bit easier for level changes and getting you to the mat. But I'm with you on the Fletcher side. His prop for submission right now is plus 130, which is interesting there. It's probably more of a late round finish though, I think, with him. And you're right with Ramaska. It's more it's probably if he wins by finish, it's a TKO or something like that. So I think you got just, can this guy stop the takedowns or get off his back, not get controlled, which we both think Fletcher probably wins the control battle and, eventually can find maybe a late sub. So maybe I take a chance on the round 3 sub or something like that. I bet that's, let's see, round 3 sub is, it's 10-1. I mean, it's okay. I mean, it's not that bad. I'm sure on, some sites you can get the round 2 or 3 and combine them or something like that. Get the round sub. So yeah, we like Fletcher. For DFS, Dan, are you going to be overweight on this fight, underweight? You said you think it finishes. So
yeah, I'm going to be overweight on this fight. It's going to be pretty owned. Right now I've got Fletcher at 29%. I've got Ramaska at 27%, but I think I can see myself getting over on both of these guys. The fight as a whole is minus 400 to finish inside the distance. So someone's going to sleep. Both of these guys are vulnerable where the other guy is strong. So it's usually a recipe for a finish.
Yeah, so it's either going one way or the other, probably. So, all right,
It's
we're both on the
priced.
Fletcher side. What?
Both sides are reasonably priced too. It's 8,400 and
Yeah.
7,400. So no
Yeah, I
trouble.
mean, I could see you being on the Fletcher side, but having more Ramaskar just because of like the price difference or the price gap. A lot of people when they're fitting lineups, we know this, but no one likes to take like the shitters down low. So they'll always want to take like the dogs that are like, closely lined priced. And
Yeah.
so it builds into that mid-tier build that people always like to do. So those guys are key. You need to have like one or two of those guys in your lineup for those like mid-tier builds. So I'm sure this fight will get a little ownership here. But all right, both of us are on the Fletcher side. Let's go to the next fight here. We've got Josiane Nunes, 7,700 on DraftKings for Nunes, coming off her first loss in the UFC versus Calvante here. Calvante, 8,500 on DraftKings, coming off her first win in the UFC here. 8,500 for Calvante. I just think this fight, it's probably one of those fights where I think Calvacante can win a decision, but I don't love her for DFS. I'm probably going to be a little under on her for DFS. I actually think that Nunes probably be the better DFS play. If I had to pick one at the price tag and the upside, I think is more on her side. And I think this fight is close to a coin flip. Like I think Calvacante should be the favorite, but I think Nunes has a good shot to win, and I think she can win this fight here. I'm probably gonna lean the dog, but it's definitely one of those fights where I don't have like a super confidence, one way or the other. And if you lean Calvacante, I wouldn't like argue it too much here, Dan. I'm gonna lean Nunes. But for DFS, definitely, I think I'm going to have more of her than Calvacante. What about you?
Yeah. So I'm gonna pick Calvacante to win a decision, like you said. But she throws more volume. She's more technical. She's better defensively. I think neither girl really neither of them looks to grapple or wrestle offensively. So I don't think you're going to be getting any of that from either of them. I think Cavalcante is just going to try to have like a nice, clean, technical kickboxing match. Nunes, on the other hand, she's going to be at a massive like size and reach disadvantage. And, she's going to her credit, I don't think she's like especially skilled, but she does come forward and throw. So she's going to want to get inside. She's going to want to throw down. I think her best path to victory is actually finding a knockout, which isn't, what do we have here? She's like plus 400 to win by knockout. It's not a great line, but I think, DFS wise, I think Nunes.
For female fights, it's not like the worst, honestly. Plus 400.
And, there will be volume and pace. Like both of them throw volume. Yeah. So, you could get a knockdown.
In her disadvantage, Dan, she's always the shorter fighter.
Yeah.
Like this is something she deals with every single fight. It's not like, some fights she is, some fights she's always pretty much fighting at that, for the most part, disadvantage. Obviously a slight reach advantage for Calvacante, but that's just, she's got to get inside. If she can find a way inside, maybe she can hurt Calvacante, and that's kind of the match right there. But you're right, it's a striking battle pretty much for 3 rounds, and it probably goes all 3 rounds. And Calvacante is the rightful favorite here. I just think the line should probably be a little closer than what it is, to be honest. So that's just that might be my theme of this card here, is just some of these fighters are a lot closer than maybe what these lines appear. But I could be totally off on this. What's the ownership coming in at for these two ladies here?
So I got Cavalcante coming in at 22 and Nunes coming in at 18. On my initial runs, I was getting slightly below that. I won't be surprised if it goes even lower, but it's 22%. Both of them are 22% to finish inside the distance, which, like you said, for a women's fight isn't the worst, but it is one of the worst. Like both of them, dog, favorite, whatever, like those are some of the worst inside the distance odds. So I don't know. The field might be. I'm actually kind
It's
of struggling.
interesting that fight is as high as what it is, Dan.
It is,
I
yeah.
feel like with those numbers, it should be lower than that, or at least one
I
of them
usually
should
don't
be
question
lower.
it, but it's a mid-range fight. People are going to be attacking the mid-range like pretty heavily, I think. And
Yeah.
there is volume. There's volume.
The problem
That's
is there's a lot of mid-range fights,
for it.
though. There's a lot of mid-range fights, though. There's like a lot of these fights. Santos, Philly, Valentine and Loiter, Angela Hill, Richi. The main event is close to it, I would get, I guess, just kind of, but uh, Line Top and Borshev. I mean, like they're all kind of close ish in the
Yeah,
mid
it's
tier.
surprising.
A lot of those fights.
Ownership is like pretty flat. There isn't anything too outrageous going on here. That does feel a little bit high though. It does. I wouldn't be surprised if it came in lower tomorrow.
Yeah, I think it could, but all right. We both think that it's probably Calvante, but I'm gonna go Nunes just because of the line here for my bet. I'm gonna be betting her, but you're on the Calvante side. Let's go to the next fight. I think a fun fight here. James Yontop here, 7,500 for Yontop versus Slava Claw. I love the name Slava Claw. Like literally, just such a good name for a fighter here. But Slavaklov coming off a L to Mr. Chase Hooper, who I think we called on this show. I don't know if it was me, you, it might have been both of us. We liked Hooper by sub, and he got the sub. But what's interesting was he kind of hurt him on the feet before he got the sub, Dan, which I thought was really interesting. He looked much improved, but I was not expecting that, when that happened. So that was interesting for me. But we know Slava here. Slava is, a striker. He wants to kind of stay at range, bounce in and out, use his striking and kicking game and not go to the feet. And I think Yontop is going to play that game with him, but he's a little different. He does have some power. He can be dangerous. And I think over the course of 3 rounds, he could almost, even if Slava's doing damage, he could almost slowly start to wear him down, and where he could find a finish here. So I know Slava is the favorite, but I like Yontop here. I think Yontop has what it takes to kind of stand and not say he shouldn't play Slava's game and just letting him kind of move around and kick and move around and kick. But I think he's got the skills to get in and kind of throw with him. Don't make it a kicking match. That's the thing though. Don't let him just stay at like kicking range and kick you and in and out. He's got to get in the pocket and try and get to his chin and body, or honestly body, and then just piece him up from there. So I think it could be like a 2nd or 3rd round finish for my guy Yontop. So I'm going Yontop here. Who you got, Dan?
I have Yontop. I have him by decision, but I could see it ending inside the distance as well. Slava Claw is, historically very durable, has never been finished, but last 2 fights, or I'm sorry, never been knocked out. He was submitted last time out, but we've seen him get hurt badly. In that draw with Sadikov, like Sadikov had him hurt badly, I believe, in round 1. He got dropped by Chase Hooper, which, like, we love Chase Hooper. I think, he's definitely getting better every time, but like getting dropped by Chase Hooper is just like it's a pretty bad look. And like his, durability, it starts to fade over time, the more damage you take over time. So I think we could be getting to that point with Slava Claus, unfortunately. He is the much better, like more technical striker, but Yontop, he's young, he's durable, he's going to come forward, and he's just going to like try to turn it into a brawl. I think price is a huge factor here because neither of them really have much grappling or wrestling upside. Like, I mean, we know Slava Claus has no grappling or wrestling. Yontop doesn't really appear to have any, though. If he has any and he tries to do it, then like he'll probably find success. But for all those reasons, like, this line was like minus 220 for Borshev. Like that's way too wide. So for a bet and DFS, I think Yontop, price considered, is the play for sure. I wouldn't be surprised by any outcome though. And like Borshev definitely has fight ending power. So, you know, I think you sprinkle a little bit of him for the possibility that he knocks Yantop out. I mean, Yantop, he just came out and like massively shit the bed as a huge favorite, getting submitted by Taco Padilla. So, you know, Borshev's not going to choke him out, but this is not a top end prospect. So I wouldn't be surprised if he lost. But, again, price considered, all that, I'm happy to take a flyer on him.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that, Yantop, we're not saying that he's a world beater, but at the same time, we think that the line is a little wide. And, for DFS, 7,500, I do think at 7,500, I guess a decision would be okay for someone like him. I don't know if you're going to get like the crazy, insane volume, but he's not getting like, I don't think he's getting takedowns after takedown where he's going to score like in the wrestling. Now he could get Slava to the ground though, but if he does, he's not like, he's looking to punch. He's not looking to like jujitsu him. Like he's not like Chase Hooper. When he gets a hold of him, he's looking to jujitsu and tie him up. And that's not Yantop. Like even if he got him down, he would be looking to like just throw hands. So Slava probably would be able to get up at some point. But it's an interesting fight. I think we're both on the same page though. Yantop for DFS, Yantop as a bet, fading Slava, or I'm fading Slava. What are you doing with Slava for DFS?
He's the ownership. He's projecting to be 28% owned, which I think is a bit high. 8,700 doesn't have any grappling or wrestling upside. It's just all striking. You're dependent on him winning like a pretty high volume decision. Maybe a knockdown at some point. But I think Slava is more or less like finish or bust here, and I just don't know if that's going to happen. So I'm not going to come in at around like 30%, but probably around like 20s. I'd be happy to have him in there because he is the much better striker, and Yantop could just be straight up terrible. So
yeah, I think that the thing with Yantop is though, I think in the striking, which is where Slava wants to play the game, I think like he's good enough to at least like survive. I think he's like tough enough at least to survive because he doesn't have to fear like the submission game. Like he doesn't have to fear that type of. Slava's not like trying to get him to the ground and sub him. That's not his game, so he doesn't have to fear that at all.
Yeah, I think Yantop actually does have some pretty good durability. I'm just looking at the initial run that I did, and I'm getting to like very little Slava as opposed to Yantop. So that seems to be the direction things are going here.
That makes sense.
He's got a tough route to the optimal without a knockout, is what it comes down to.
All right, let's go to a big favorite here on the card. We've got Zachary Rees, 9,200 for Zachary Rees, coming off of a nice win too, against Marquez here. First round finish, big boy score. He's 9,200 here on DraftKings against Jose Medina, coming off of a loss in the Dana White Contender Series where he got it. Even though losing, he got it because he just showed that he was absolutely tough as nails. I think he took the fight too on somewhat short notice, Dan. Don't quote me on that for sure, but I thought that was the case for him. And Dana just loved him. Dana just loved that he had no quit. So, yeah, I mean, he got beaten up. He couldn't stop takedowns. He got beaten up in that fight, but he just kept kind of like he wouldn't quit. You know what I mean? So he's one of those guys. Like he thinks that, improving and stuff like that. But Zachary Rees definitely seems like someone who should be able to, do what he wants here in this fight. But who knows? Maybe Jose Medina just like he beats Jose Medina up for a round and a half, and Jose Medina's just still in his face, and it won't go away and won't quit. And Zachary Rees just, gets frustrated and stuff like that. We've seen Zachary Rees lose to people with some questionable IQ and stuff like that. So, you know, it's not like he's a world beater, but I do think he's the far more like skilled all around fighter for sure.
Yeah, Rees hilariously power bombed on the side of his head by Cody Brundage. That was funny as shit. But,
I didn't call the power bomb, but I called Cody Brundage winning that fight. Whether it was lucky or good, I don't care. He won.
I was just that's why we love the sport, right? Moments like Zachary's getting power bombed on the side of his head.
And then I got Mad Lab texting me, oh yeah, that's bullshit, blah blah blah. I still remember that. Shout out to my guy Mad Lab. I owned your ass, Mad Lab.
Don't get slammed on the side of your head.
Yeah, I mean, it's dangerous if you get slammed on the side of your head.
Medina getting a contract with no loss is just like so funny because it's like he didn't even land anything. He was just getting, he was just getting beat up, but was standing there like, come on, like, let's fight. And
yeah,
the commentary is like, I love this guy. Bisbing is like, give him a contract. I'm like, all right. I didn't realize. That's crazy. I think the first time I watched that fight, I didn't realize that they actually ended up giving him a contract, which is so funny too. Like,
I didn't remember it.
Finney.
I didn't remember it either, honestly, that they gave him a contract.
With Torres Finney winning his fight, and then Dana just like shitting on him, just hardcore, like tearing this guy down. Like, I told you to go out and get fight.
Well, because he told them what to do, and then he wouldn't go do. He didn't go do it. He fought one time in a year, and then he came out and gave the same performance. I do think though the UFC has been sending a clear message through the Dana White Contender Series, and I'm sure to these fighters, I'm sure they're literally just telling them. And I said this to Dan before we jumped on, but if you go back and watch the Gamrot Dan Hooker fight. After, what did he say after they fought? He's like, hey, was that not entertaining? He pretty much said to the world without saying it, like, you think I'm a boring fighter? Was that a boring fight? Because it wasn't a boring fight. It was a great fight. But, not every Gamrot fight is a Dan Hooker Gamrot fight. You know what I mean? Sometimes they're snooze fest. And I think the UFC is really putting a point to these new fighters coming in, especially not just the Gamrot. I think it's less to those guys. I think Gamrot was just proving a point, that he could fight that way if he wanted to. But to the people coming in now, that, hey, listen, if you don't have the style that we're looking for, that fun, trying to finish people, especially when you come on the Contender Series, you're going to be shit out of luck most 99% of the time. And I think that's what Dana's trying to show, because you saw it in the press conference. What was it? A pay-per-view ago or 2 pay-per-views ago, where he was complaining about 7 or 8 decisions in a row and just, he wasn't happy. And I mean, hey, he wants to run it the way he wants to run it. That's how he wants to run it. I want finishes. Dan, don't you like finishes? I like guys that are exciting. Like, that's what we want. So I get being like kind of like, what the hell, Dana? But we want that. Yeah. I don't want them to just like shit on wrestlers so they don't wrestle. But I don't like the wrestlers that just lay and pray. I'm all for the jiu-jitsu though, them getting better positions, trying to finish people with submissions. I love those fights. I'm all for that.
You got to try to advance or land some kind of damage or finish the fight or do something. Definitely agreed there.
God, all rise. Woo! Did he hit a bomb again? If Aaron Judge is on a different level. If you fade Aaron Judge in DFS right now, you're just doing things wrong. Guy is on a different level.
The Yankees
absolute stud. All right, back to it. Sorry, I didn't. Joe Ruff, you know what you did when you said that. You got me going here. Dan, talk about this though.
This guy Medina is terrible. Like, really, they should not have signed him. He has very few redeeming qualities. As a fighter, I'm sure he's a great human. Maybe who knows. He's never been finished. That's probably the best thing I could say about him. He's got a puncher's chance against Rees. Like, Rees, we've never seen him get outside of a first round. So there's always questions when you haven't seen somebody outside of the first round. But I think the talent gap, the physicality gap, Rees is going to be, he's going to be towering over him. He's got like a 3-inch reach advantage. And, he's just a finisher, man. Like, he's either putting your lights out like Julian Marquez, 20 seconds with an uppercut. He's got good power at his hands, obviously, or he looks for submissions like pretty constantly when you're on the mat. So he's aggressive on the feet, he's aggressive on the mat. This Medina guy, not good, man. I'm gonna be playing some of him just because Rees has shown that he can be knocked out. There are definitely questions how he does in an extended fight. So, for that reason, I mean, it's a great fight to play both sides of. I'm not going to go crazy on Medina because I think, it's very low probability to actually win the fight and land that knockout, that knockout shot. But, 13% implied inside the distance like that at 7K is, that's worth some exposure for sure.
Yeah. I think Jose Medina's tough enough where like Zachary Rees just can drop him, but I don't know if he finishes them like that. So like, I think he finds a sub. I think it's like he knocks him down and then he's on the mat and Zachary Rees either gets on him or as he's standing up, like snatches something up and can finish them with the submission. Cause like you said, this dude he's just tough. Like when your best quality is that you're tough as hell as a fighter, that's great. But like when you fight someone who's just overall better everywhere, you're going to get your ass beat, obviously, but they got to find different ways to finish you. In a submission, it's not like you have to knock their head in, and they keep getting back up and they keep getting back up. No, like you choke someone out, right? You arm bar. Like Zachary Rees has all those type of things. He's so long, so he can snatch things off his back too. Like he's just very, very skilled in that way. So yeah, I like Zachary Rees. You like Zachary Rees. But I get for DFS if you're 150 and playing just a little bit, because if this dude just keeps getting in his face, what is Zachary Rees, like we said, like 2 rounds in, and this guy just isn't going away, and it's just irritating the crap out of him. So I don't think that happens, but you never know. So, all right, that's that fight here for DFS. I'm definitely going to be super overweight on Zach. He's probably I think he's my favorite 9K guy. Dan, where would you rank him?
He's my number one overall in the entire slate. Like in my initial runs, I'm getting more of him than anybody. His price is great. His opponent is terrible. Some guy, he's just, we've got a lot of questions, but he's a finisher, man. Like he just goes out there and finishes people.
And he can do both. That's what I like about Zachary Rees. Like it doesn't matter where the fight goes. He can bring the fight anywhere. Some of the guys, a lot of times, like Dan Hooker or like certain people, for instance, like they'll drop guys, but like they're afraid to get on the mat with them because they know that guy's specialty's on the mat. So they can recover on the mat and then find a way onto their back and then they're screwed, right? And then it's like the opposite for some guys where like, so, when you got a guy who can drop someone and then follow them straight down and ground and pound, find a submission like that, those are guys that have very good paths to finding, a finish either way because of that, because they can do the finish, whether it's a submission or a KO, and they're not afraid to go anywhere in the cage with the fighter. So, yep, those are the guys that I like to target, and I'm with you on Zachary Rees. Let's go to the next fight. Dennis Bookia here, 7,400 for Bookia versus Francis Marshall. Francis Marshall, 8,300 on DraftKings. Francis Marshall, listen, he wants to try and get you to the ground. He's looking for takedowns. He can stand and bang, though. He's got some power. He does have a knockout in the UFC where he pretty much traded with someone and won. But again, he's pretty strong when he gets the wrestling going. He does have decent wrestling, I think. But if you can stuff a few takedowns and force him to strike and kind of like almost like point fight him instead, like you have a better chance. I thought he won the Gomez fight, to be honest. At the end, it was a split decision. He lost that fight. I thought he probably should have won at the end, but that's just me. Bulgarian, that dude's a beast. He just took Francis Marshall down and just pounded him with elbows, and they finished it pretty fast. But I don't really knock him for that fight. So he fights Dennis Bookia. I mean, I think this is a really close fight here. I'm gonna lean Francis Marshall, but I wouldn't be shocked if Bookia won this fight. And for DFS, I think I'm going to have a decent amount of both these guys. I think this is one of the fights where I'm going to have shares of both fighters in this like mid-tier pricing range. Normally, I try and stick to one because I don't play 150. But for this fight, I think I'm going to have some of both because I do see paths where both guys could put up a decent score here. Francis with the wrestling, Bookia maybe finding a knockout or something like that. So, 7,400. If he finds a finish, Dan, that's probably optimal at 7,400. So, I like this fight for DFS. I'm leaning Marshall. Where are you at?
I'm also leaning Marshall. I agree with you. I think this is like a pretty sneaky fight. Like it doesn't rate out particularly well. Like the finish numbers aren't like overly impressive. The over under on time, not impressive. But yeah, like Marshall, both of these guys like will push pace, and you could see like a pretty high volume striking affair. Marshall's definitely going to mix in the wrestling. It's just I think yeah, and Bookia, since this is a midweek replacement, like he's a pretty screaming value at 7,400, and I believe the line is like I think he's like plus 122 to win. Bookia, I think Marshall is probably technically better than Bookia pretty much everywhere, but Bookia he's one of those guys that is just like a dog. Like he doesn't stop coming at you, and he's just going to do like you have to stop him to make him fucking stop, like he's not going to give up. And I believe he was optimal last time out when he fought in AC. I don't think he rated out particularly well again, but it's like, these guys who don't go away, especially at 7,400, like if he gets another late, like third round finish and he's been in like this back and forth kind of brawl with Marshall, like he could absolutely break the slate, and he's rating out terribly for me. So I'm probably going to I'm not going to go crazy with it because it does look
like. Is he going to be popular, Dan?
Yeah.
What's his ownership? Yeah.
I've got him around 27%. I could see him coming in a little higher because like these like extreme value guys do tend to come in higher than projected. So like I could definitely see like low to mid 30s.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, like 35 almost, like,
which is gonna put me on Marshall more. Marshall at 8,300 is still, he's another one of these like reasonably priced mid-range guys who like his striking numbers, if you just look at the stats, like the stats just don't really tell the whole story. Like if you go all the way back to his Contender Series fight against Matthews, like that's more of like the striking volume and pace that he wants to do, like 110 strikes. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think this one is kind of going to fly under the radar. Bookia will probably be a little bit more popular than he should be. Marshall's also, projecting to be like 25, 26%. So not super, super under the radar, but ownership is just kind of spread out in general on this card. I think he's a strong option with all the takedown.
I think the more we talk about it, the more I want to get on Marshall just for DFS, because if Bookia is going to be that popular, I think, getting the leverage of playing Marshall and just hoping he gets that victory, however he gets it, because I think even in a decision, he's got a chance to still outperform that price tag in a decision win. Like you said, with the volume and possibly takedowns, he could still hit that optimal.
It's striking and wrestling volume with Marshall, which you really like. It's like he has two different ways where he can get there. And he's very active. So, yeah, great option.
All right, we're both on the Marshall side here. Let's go to the next fight. Really interesting fight here. I like this fight. We've got Gerald Mirart 7,200 on DraftKings versus Edmund Shabazian. 9K for Shabazian coming off of a knockout win versus AJ Dobson in the first round here. Both guys have finishing upside. Their finishing upside is completely different paths. Mirart is a guy with power. He does have power. Like, honestly, like when he throws, he has power. It's just not really his game, and he can get dropped very easily. But where you don't want to mess with him is in the grappling. If he gets you to the ground, which his takedowns aren't the greatest, but if he gets you to the ground, he is really slick and he is dangerous and can submit a lot of people here. And he could easily submit Shabazian if this fight found its way to the ground somehow. So I think he is a live dog, 7,200. I'm sure he's going to get played. And he's a live dog and he has finishing upside, whether it be just one path or not. He has finishing upside. It is on the ground. He's 7,200. If he finds a submission, he's probably going to be optimal, Dan, at that price tag. So I'm going to have a decent amount of Mirart. Shabazian, like the same thing, but just the reverse, right? He's looking for this fight to stay on the feet. If he finishes, it's on the feet. He's going to be one of those guys, if he knocks Gerald Mirart down, he's going to be very careful about how he goes at him. Like I don't know if he's just going to jump on him and try and finish. He's going to be very careful about how he does it. So, but he's looking for the knockout. Good fight for DFS. If you're 150, and this is definitely a fight, I would say play both sides of it. And yeah, I'm going to probably have a little more Mirart than Shabazian. And I'm gonna go submission. I'm gonna go submission here for my guy Mirart. Where are you at? It seems like I bet you're on Shabazian.
I'm on Shabazian, yeah. And Mirart, the durability is definitely a question at this point in his career. And I also, what's concerning to me is, like, if you look on Tapology, like, he's losing grappling matches, like he's entering grappling competitions and he's losing them. And that is, like, when that's your best path to victory in an MMA fight, like, I don't love that, especially
he's not losing to Shabazian, I'll tell you that.
Well, no, but it's like how strong is this aspect of your game really? I mean, is your age just catching up to you? Because, like, we'll break out the age model for the first time this show. Joe Mirart 36, Shabazian 26. Yeah, I think Shabazian definitely has holes in his game. Like, his cardio is extremely suspect. If this does get extended out, he could definitely be in trouble. So, like you said, I mean, this is a great fight to target both sides on, but I really think Shabazian is going to be able to put him away in the first round. It's going to knock him out.
That's honestly, if Gerald Mirart can somehow, like, in the first round, just kind of drain him, even if he doesn't get him to the ground, just like get him up against the cage, kind of like get that sting away from that power, that first round power. So those shots don't have as much of a pop, and he gets it into that second round. I think that's where he's very live to find a finish. If there's less pop on those shots for Edmund, and then he can find a way to the ground from there, Edmund gets a little tired. So
Shabazian I think he does have, like, pretty solid grappling defense, though. Like, he's never been submitted professionally, and people have tried. I mean, Imavov went 0 for 4, Hernandez 0 for 4. I mean, Hernandez did eventually lose to both of them from ground and pound, but he didn't get submitted. And I don't think Mirart is going to be, like, getting him on the ground and pounding him, unless, like, we're getting, like, late second round or into the third round, and Shabazian just totally
gets tired. He gets tired. Yep. That's why I was saying, though, I don't think it's a first round thing like with Mirart. I think the first round, if it's a first round finish, I think it's with Shabazian. I think Mirart, if he's finishing them, it's like a late, he gets tired from all, like, just the grappling and stuff like that, and trying to get him just worn out, and then he gets him, he finds a way at the end. But all right, that's a good fight for DFS. I would be pretty, overexposed to both these guys in 150 if you're playing 150. Let's go to the gatekeeper, Neil Magny, 6,700 for Neil Magny here against Michael Morales. And we know how this fight is going to try and go for Neil Magny. He's going to look for those clinch situations, and he's going to look to just slow the fight down and make everyone fight his fight. And if you fight his fight, he's going to win most of the time. So it's just, that's the way Neil Magny fights go. He is a massive dog, obviously, 6,700. Normally, even in wins, Dan, he doesn't score like very good, even when he's getting the victory a lot of times for DFS, but he's 6,700. So if you think he wins, then you might want to play him, and then you got Michael Morales on the other side, definitely the more skilled, younger. You can break out the age model, Dan, because you got an age difference here. So
12 years.
Yeah, big age difference, but
I don't like that.
I mean, he's super skilled. What's annoying about Michael Morales is he sometimes takes a while to get going. And when you fight someone like Neil Magny, you can't do that as much. You can't like slow start and then he's holding you for a whole round. And then you get into the second round, you're like, I don't know who won that round. And Michael Morales got nothing off. So like for DFS, it's just annoying that way. But if it's a decision, Michael Morales ain't getting there at 9,500. That's for sure. Even in a decision win, he's not getting there. So you need a finish. You'd want an early finish for someone like him, but he's 9,500. I guess if he wins and he gets you 95 plus, Dan, you'd probably take it on anything. Against Neil Magny, that's tough.
Yeah, because like you said, Magny, like his whole game is predicated on, slowing the fight down, which, for his age, especially now, is like not a surprise. The volume is low. He's not absorbing strikes. He wants to clinch you against the cage and just control you and wear on you. I don't know how well that's going to work on Morales, because Morales just like doesn't seem to get tired. He's definitely been a DFS disappointment. Like he's always priced in the 9Ks. This is actually going to be his highest price, I believe. Usually he's in the low 9Ks, but I think his last two wins, he scored like 65 and 60 something, because he's just like not in a hurry to finish the fight. He doesn't show a whole lot of urgency. And that kind of coupled with Magny's, wanting to slow the fight down. It's it's tough. Like
I think Shabazian's a better play in the 9K range.
Much better. Yeah. I mean, the only thing, like mainly Morales, what he has going for him is his ownership will be lower. Like he's 25%, where like most of the other people up in his range are kind of in the 30s, approaching the 40s. So he's definitely an ownership play, but he's got little to no grappling or wrestling upside. Like he's not going to score like that.
And he doesn't want to play that game with Neil Magny anyways. He wants to be as far away from Neil Magny as possible while still being able to kick and punch him, right? Like he does not, you don't want to get up against the cage. You don't want Neil Magny backing you up against the cage. And you don't want to, you want to be at almost kicking range with Neil Magny, which he can do, like he can throw and kick from that range. It's just Neil Magny is a master at making people fight the way he wants you to fight. Because he wins a lot of fights he shouldn't win. That's the point with Neil Magny.
Yeah. Having said all that, and Magny also doesn't really get finished. Having said all that, though, Morales still does rate out, like 43% implied to win inside the distance. That's a pretty decent number. It's not really the type of number you want. Like, Shabazian, just for comparison's sake, like Shabazian 70%, Rees 76%. You've got Wang Kong at 70%. So he's definitely on the lower end for his price range, but he will be the lowest owned up there. And, maybe 37-year-old Neil Magny is what Morales needs to like get back on track and start knocking people out again. Because
so
that's not been it.
9K, you got Zachary Rees, Kong, Morales, Shabazian. Am I missing anyone? I don't think I am. How do you rank those four?
All right, let me.
Because I think I would rank them. I think that I would rank them. Zachary Rees, Shabazian, Morales, and then Kong would be me. How would you rank them?
I've got Rees, Kong, Shabazian, a gap, and then Morales. But you know,
he said a gap and then Morales. So you don't like him. You're gonna adjust your stuff. You don't like him if that's the case.
I gotta push him up. Yeah, I'm really not getting much of him. It's, you know, price considered.
It's only because of the ownership you're liking him. It's the leverage. Like your stuff is only like
I'm getting under on him. I'm gonna have to bump him more if I want to. You know why? It's because I'm getting a ton of Kong. She just rates out so much better, so much better for 100 more.
I think if you're someone, which I know a lot of people watching this, if you're someone who makes like 1 lineup, 3 lineups, even 5 lineups, it's not a terrible idea. Even though Kong is a better DFS play probably than Morales, like from a finishing upside standpoint. Just play Morales and somehow just hope all those other 9K guys whiff pretty much. And Morales can somehow find a finish and score 95 to 100 and is one of the top 2 highest. Because really Morales, Dan, he only has to be one of like the top 2 highest scorers in that range to be optimal. He doesn't have to be 1. He can be 2.
That's true. Or, you know, like builds with the high 9K. If they're not getting out, if he's outscoring the 9K range, the 9K range could just bust as a whole. Yep, he is the worst option on paper in the 9K range, like for sure. He probably has one of the tougher opponents, which feels like kind of funny to say about like Neil Magny, but like Kong and Reese's opponent, they should each walk through their opponent. Shabazian should walk through Mirart, although that's a little dicier. Morales, you know, like we said, Magny, that like kind of slow it down, grinding style. It's just like death for fantasy, dude. It sucks. It sucks so bad. And I don't even
we're not done yet, bro. We still got like 4 more fights left. We're still here.
Another 30
You want to finish your thought?
That's basically it. I'm really just gonna talk about how much I hate Neil Magny fights, you know.
I hate watching them too, but the guy finds a way to win. Like
it's tough. I mean, again, and it's not like the worst inside the distance number. Like if he knocks Neil Magny out in the first round,
Dana's gotta hate watching Neil Magny fights. He's gotta hate it. Like it's gotta just kill him every time he watches Neil Magny win a 3-round. Like the Mike Malott, like it's gotta kill him. The Mike Malott fight and the just like watching those fights, it's just gotta hurt his soul.
I just think, like, do you bring up Mike Malott? It's like, I really am not interested in playing Neil Magny at all because even though he's cheap, it's like I can see other people down in that range also winning, and they're most certainly gonna outscore him because he just doesn't do anything. He doesn't do anything, and it's like he beat Mike Malott, like because Mike Malott is very bad. Mike Malott was beating his ass the first 2 rounds and then just died. Just fucking, just curled up while Neil Magny
should have beat
you've ever seen.
Rose should have beat Neil Magny.
So what was that?
Philip Rose should have beat Neil Magny. He didn't. He lost, and it was fair. But Philip Rowe, it was his fault that he lost. He kept throwing and then grabbing him. Like he'd throw, like he'd give him a 1-2 and then like grab a hold of Neil Magny for no reason and initiate clinches when he shouldn't have been. Dude, if you just stood there and threw combinations and didn't grab a hold, because he was tired, obviously, at certain points. But I'm just saying, like, you don't want to grab a hold of Neil Magny, like ever. You want to like 1-2, 1-2, you short combinations and get out, right, Dan? Like short combination, get out. And I'm sure all these fighters like go into fights saying like when they fight Neil Magny, they're like, this is my game plan. But then he just finds a way to say, fuck your game plan. You're just not going to do that game plan somehow. even when he's losing sometimes. So that's
frustrating guy.
Yeah,
very frustrating guy.
That's enough talk with Neil Magny. We can go. We can go on to the next fight here. We've got Moreno Santos, 8,500 for Santos versus Khan Ofili. I don't know if I said that name right, but we'll go with it. Ofili 7,700 on DraftKings here. Dan, what are you seeing from these two guys here? This is one of the Ultimate Fighter ones, right?
This is an Ultimate Fighter fight. Ofili, you know, he's kind of just like an all-around guy. He does pursue takedowns pretty aggressively, likes to grapple. I didn't get to do it. He is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, you know, solid boxing, kind of below average volume. He's just kind of like okay everywhere. The problem for him in this fight is that, well, on the other side, Santos, you know, he's going to be much bigger. He's more of a striker. But he does have like pretty solid wrestling defense as far as I can tell. So I think that combined with like, he's going to be much, much bigger. He's got like a 3-inch height advantage. I didn't get off-leash reach, but he should have a pretty sizable reach advantage as well. The striking, it is like lower volume. He's more of a counter striker. He looks to kind of like strike from the outside, but like he does mix his strikes and targets well. Yeah, I don't have a super strong opinion on this fight. I did pick Santos to win by decision just because I think Ophelia is going to have a really hard time sort of like implementing his like wrestling heavy style on Santos, because I think Santos is going to be able to kind of keep him at distance and also just like use his size and out physical him. It doesn't really project. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so I agree with you 100%. So this is a massive reach advantage for Santos. I mean, we're talking 8-inch reach advantage. So he's got a big time reach advantage, also a height advantage by a few inches. Age 24 for Santos, 31 for Ofili. 14 wins to 1 loss for Santos, and he's only 24. I mean, that's pretty decent for only being 24, Dan. So
that's good.
I think that, I think that combined with, like you said, I think the takedown defense is going to play a big role. I think he can keep him at range. And when you're someone who's looking to get takedowns, but you can't get inside, and someone has such a big range and they can just kind of snipe you and move and use that distance, it's a lot harder for those guys to get inside, to get a hold of you, to get the takedowns. On top of it, it just makes it like 10 times harder. So I think Santos has a pretty big advantage here, and I like him. I think he can kind of just snipe. My only issue is like if he's just kind of sniping them and getting out, Dan, how well does that score in a decision? I don't know if that scores well in a decision, but I think he could find a finish here.
Yeah, Santos' volume is a bit concerning because he is lower volume. He is mostly looking to counter, but this Ofili guy, I think his game plan is still going to be like wrestling heavy. He's going to come in, try to get the takedowns. So he's going to be forcing the issue. He's going to be getting in his face. He's going to be making Santos throw more. And like, as always with these fights where you're going to have like any kind of wrestling or grappling exchanges, like that just kind of like opens the door to higher scoring. So, you know, kind of it's a little tougher to get a read on some of these guys, but I've got them both rating out, you know, fairly well. I actually am getting a lot of Ofili on my initial runs, and I think it's because he's getting a pretty good projection. The finishing metrics are like not anything special, although the over under is set at around 1.5. I'm going to end up pulling back on Ofili. I think maybe it's just like a pricing thing. I'll have to look.
It's got to be a pricing thing. You got to be lower on some of the other guys in his range, probably.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Because there's a few. I like the more we talk about, though. I think the more I like Santos. Just with the aggressiveness of Ofili and the fact that like he's going to try and stay in his face. That's going to like force Santos. Because my worry was volume, right? When you're a counter striker, like the other person has to, you know, play that fight for you to actually, you know, be able to get off a bunch of strikes and stuff like that. And if they just let you like pick them apart, that, you know, that doesn't really show a lot of volume. But if they're just like constantly in your face, trying to be aggressive, trying to get inside, it's going to force him to throw more, right, Dan? So that's what you want.
Yeah. Now I'm looking at it again. Like these inside the distance numbers are actually quite good, especially for like hopefully like 27% implied inside the distance for that price is, it's comparable. It's actually one of the better inside the distance numbers in that range. So,
well, Santos has a lot of decisions, I think, too, in his fighting career,
Santos
right?
is good inside the distance numbers as well.
Okay.
He's got like, wait, we'll get the wrong guy. Yeah, it's pretty much split. Like he's either knocking guys out or going to decision. No, like grappling or wrestling.
Which makes sense for his style. If you're a counter striker, like that makes sense. So
I actually do like targeting this fight though, more than when we first started talking about it. Now I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, this is why I'm getting a lot of it.
I like it. All right, we're both in on this fight. Who do you have winning?
I have Santos winning.
Okay.
I just think the size and striking advantage are going to be a bit too much for hopefully.
Yeah, me too. All right, what's up, WKJ? What's going on, brother? Let's get to. We got 3 more fights left on the card here. I think another Ultimate Fighter fight here. We got Robert Valente, 8,400 for Valente versus Ryan Loer, 7,800 for Loer. This is one of those fights. Loer is a wrestler. He's trying to get this fight to the ground. If he does get the fight to the ground, he's pretty slick when you get it to the ground. He's got strong body locks and stuff like that. He's kind of like, too, he's stronger than he looks in the positions because Valentine's going to look like bigger, but like he's pretty strong in those like grappling positions where he can kind of like body lock and then just kind of throw you to the ground, even when it doesn't look like he has like a size advantage. So he's definitely really strong in the wrestling. You can tell when you watch him. And I think it's going to be one of those, like one guy is going to look to like keep it on the feet, and that's Valentine. And one guy is going to look to strike. When I went back and watched Valentine, I actually watched his most recent loss, which was like a year and a half ago, I think. And he lost to a guy who is a like wrestler grappler who pretty much controlled him on the mat for a decent amount of the 3 rounds, and then found like a super late, I think it was knee bar. I think he lost by submission. It was a knee bar. But it was like very late. And, Valentine held his own. He never quit. He tried to like get back in the fight, even though he was outmatched in the grappling, and he tried to do it. But I think overall he played into the wrestling and grappling too much instead of trying to just stand back up and get it on the feet. And I think that was his downfall there. But I think this is one of those straightforward fights for betting. You either think Loiter's going to get the takedowns. If he doesn't, then I think Valentine probably knocks him out because he is not special on the feet. Loiter, when he throws, he's one of those guys, Dan. He's never throwing to like actually hurt you. He's throwing these big actions moving forward to back you up against the cage to level change. So like whenever he's throwing, he knows like when you're close enough to the cage, he's just going to drop and grab a leg or grab both legs. So, you know what I mean? Grab a hold of you and then try and find you down. He's never trying to like throw to knock you. So he's not really as dangerous as Valentine is. So from the upside side, from like a finishing aspect, it's definitely Valentine, but Loiter could get a bunch of takedowns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you broke it down well. The one thing I would add is Valentine also, I think he's a pretty capable submission grappler. He's got quite a few submission wins on his record, mostly rear naked chokes. So I think he is capable down there, especially if he's like in the dominant position. Off his back might not be so great. He rarely makes it out of a second round, right? So like his cardio and durability is a bit of a question, but like he's just like pure violence. Like he's very explosive. He wants to end the fight. Like he's looking to end the fight. He's got quick hands, throws extremely heavy strikes. He's the type of guy that I like to back as opposed to a guy like Loter who, very capable wrestler. He's got like D1 wrestling background. But like you kind of touched on, he's a liability on the feet. Like he does have a knockout. He's got a couple knockouts on his pro record. So he does have power in his hands, but the boxing is not very good. And like you said, he's mainly using that to try to like take you down. I'm not sure. Again, we don't know how good like Valentine's getup is or isn't, like really. So this will probably be one of the bigger tests to that. But yeah, I mean,
Dan, I think this fight is going to be like one of those fights. We're going to watch it, and then we're going to go, whoever won the fight, we're going to go, well, why weren't they a minus 300 favorite?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like one's going to look way better because it's just going to go one way or the other.
They're both facing, so like both of their previous competition is so like pitifully low level. It's so like Valentine's last fight outside of the Ultimate Fighter, he beat a guy whose record coming in was 15-25-1. Why is that guy fighting? Like why is any promotion booking that guy to fight? It's just like this is the kind of competition that these guys are facing. So it's going to be an extremely it's like you said, like both guys each excel in one area, and they're both totally opposite areas. So like if one guy comes out, it's like very possible one guy comes out and just dominates at his chosen path, and it's going to seem really obvious in hindsight. It's a high variance fight. They both push a super solid pace. I think it's live to have a lot of like sloppy wrestling and grappling exchanges, because I don't think like, Loer, obviously he's got like pedigree, but I think inside of an MMA cage, it's like a little bit different when you've got a ton of other shit to worry about, and like not just someone wrestling you, but someone also trying to like take your head off or choke you out. So, I mean, just given the pace and the volatility and the amount of grappling and wrestling that's probably going to get thrown in, like, I think this is an awesome fight to target. Like, this is one of my favorites, especially at the prices. The only problem is like they're both projecting to be around like 30% owned. So you've got ownership to contend with, but I think the ownership is warranted.
Yeah. All right. Who are you picking to win?
I'm picking Valentine, man. Give me violence.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Valentine too. Give me violence too. But again, like I said, Loiter, he could just wrestle him to death for 3 rounds. He could wrestle him to death for sure. So, all right, let's go to the second to last fight on the card. I think the most tilted I've been in a while was when Tabitha Richi won the split decision over Tisha Pennington. That was a robbery, Dan. That was, I don't know if you remember watching that fight. I don't know which side you were on. I was obviously on the Pennington side. She got absolutely hosed in that fight. Tabitha Richi went 1 for 10 in takedowns and won a split decision. I thought Tisha Pennington was piecing her up on the feet too. And somehow Tabitha Richi won. That was annoying to me. Now she gets Angela Hill. And Angela Hill is, I know she's older, but she's getting better, Dan. Like she's actually like getting better in her older age and improving and things. She finally got a finish and a submission finish of all those last fight. I think this is, super coin flippy, which it is. The line is, what is Angela Hill still a slight favorite?
I believe she has now become the dog.
No, it's flipped now.
Yeah, it keeps flipping back and forth. Yeah, so Richi's now favorite at minus 127. You can get Hill for plus 107.
Okay. All right. I'm going to lean Angela Hill, but I'm fully ready to lose a split decision with Tabitha Richi winning a split decision. Dan, this fight is going to be a split decision. Like I already see it happening. I've envisioned it. This fight's going to end. We're going to be like, who run rounds 2 and 3? We have no idea. Because Tabitha Richi's going to try and get takedowns. She's going to try and get grappling. And Angela Hill is just very solid everywhere. So I think she's going to be able to stop a lot of these takedowns. I think she's going to be able to also reverse some positions, show off some of her grappling and get it to the feet. And on the feet, Angela Hill is the better on the feet fighter. Richi's probably still the better grappler, obviously. So that's where this fight ends. But Angela Hill's no slouch grappling either. And her takedown defense, it's been like everything's been getting better with her. So I'm going to lean Hill, but I'm fully ready to be disappointed here. It's interesting, though. The line has flipped again. How many times has it flipped, Dan? I feel like it's flipped multiple times, but I could be totally wrong on that.
It's like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
But all very like small, just like kind of back and forth action. And yeah, that speaks to the nature. I mean, like it is definitely a coin flip fight. You said it well. Hill has a massive advantage on the feet. Richi definitely has a grappling advantage. The wrestling is sort of like you think on its face. I think most people would say that Richi has the wrestling advantage, but her wrestling is just like not very good. You know, she goes for a lot of takedowns and she ends up getting them, but like the takedown accuracy is pretty poor. And you know, I think
it's because her grappling is good. It's not her wrestling that's good. Like you still got to be able to get, and there's a difference between wrestling and grappling, and people know this by now. Like, you know, so you still got to be able to get people to the ground to then use your jujitsu for the most part, like and use all the grappling and stuff. So I think that's, and you might be right. Angela Hill might have the wrestling advantage in a way over Tabitha Richi.
Yeah, if not an outright advantage, then I think that she is more than capable enough to stuff the takedowns. Because you know, like we said, like Richi's takedowns, I don't think her wrestling in general is anything special. You know, age model, I think you know, I'm gonna take that and set it to the side because I'm also picking.
You're not taking Angela Hill, are you?
I'm taking Angela Hill.
Wow! No, holy crap!
I did message Mark. We don't like usually talk the fights like too in depth before the show, but I did message Mark and I was like, can a 39-year-old Angela Hill beat Richi? And he messaged me back exactly what I was thinking and what you already said. And he said, Hill's been getting better, like has been getting better every time out, right? And I'm like, yes, exactly. So like that made me feel that lets me make this pick with confidence. Like I understand like the nature of the fight. Again, another fight where like there's someone with a clear striking advantage, someone with a clear grappling advantage. It's like hindsight can make you look stupid, but I feel really good about Angela Hill. Just in general, it's like, you know, you've got GM3 out here aging like milk, and she's like aging like wine. She just like keeps getting better. First submission win like ever last time out. Impressive stuff, man.
Yeah, and she just looks like strong doing it too. It's not like fluky. It's like she looks strong everywhere. Nothing's like fluky about it. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And like I feel like though this is kind of like the Tisha fight where we're gonna watch it. We're gonna go, yeah, I think Angela Hill won the fight, and then at the end of the day, they're gonna give it to Richi somehow, and I'm gonna be tilted. Like, hopefully that doesn't happen because I'm on Hill with you. I think. Do you see a finish in this fight, Dan?
I have Hill by decision. I think she's going to win.
Me too.
You know, she's going to stuff the takedowns. I think she's going to piece her up on the feet. You know, hard to project a finish here, to be perfectly honest. And the fight doesn't rate out all that well for me. But like lately, when Angela Hill wins, she's optimal and she smashes. She like finds a way. You know, so good volume.
I don't think she should do this, but when people are trying to wrestle you, sometimes trying to counter offensive wrestle could work in Angela Hill's favor. I don't think that's her game plan. I think her game plan is going to be to stuff the takedowns and pretty much do what Tisha did. Like, I think that's going to be her game plan. Like, do what Tisha did. Like, pick her apart at like just on the feet, pick her apart, stuff the takedowns. But it wouldn't stun me if she tried to offensively wrestle her, you know, in a way, a little bit in the fight. Because Angela Hill's got cardio. That's the other thing about like Angela Hill. She's 39 or whatever, but bro, like she's got cardio. Like yeah, it's great. So it's not like you worry. Yeah. Like the minute I see Angela Hill start to get tired, during her fights, that's the minute I'm like, okay, we're done with Angela Hill. She's like, she's over. Because remember, she's fighting up and up and up, Dan, right? So as she wins, she's fighting better and better and better talented girls, because obviously she's fought all around. And so right when we see her start to slow down, I haven't seen it. So I'm not going again. Like, I just can't go against it unless I see a girl who has like crazy finishing upside or something like that. Which Tabitha Richi, I don't think is that girl. I think she could like find a submission, but Angela Hill's tough, man. Like, she's tough to submit. She's tough to, finish in general. So I just don't see it. We're both on the Hill side. We both like her by decision. Yeah, Little Chop, we talked about this fight a while back. We're both on Yan Top. Dan likes him by decision. I like him by KO, but we're both on the Yan Top to win side. I will be betting that. I will bet. I will sprinkle the first round KO. I don't think it's a first round KO, Little Chop. I think it's like a second or third. I think it's the later end of that fight. I think he finds a late finish, not a early finish. But I'm with you on the finish there. So, all right, let's get to the main event on the card. We got Kyle Borralho, 8,600 for Borralho versus Jared Cannonier, who, you want to break out the age model, Dan? I mean, because we can do it right now.
Bust it out.
Started off because he pissed me off against Imavov when, I mean, listen, against Vettori, he looked amazing. Like, the guy was just like nonstop. And then against Imavov, he slowed down. Like, he slowed down and then ended up getting finished. I couldn't believe it. Because, I mean, the dude, when you look at him, he looks like he's in phenomenal shape. He's friggin' jacked. He's fit. But I saw in a while him just slow down. And that's, like I said, with Angela Hill, right when I see that happen, I'm like, okay, Angela Hill's done. We pick against her from now on. And I feel that way with Jared Cannonier. He's fighting Kaio, who, he's just from that gym that keeps winning, the Fighting Nerds gym. They have good game plans when they come in. So they stick to their game plans. They're very smart, high IQ. And I just find it hard to pick against him after what I saw from Jared last fight. It just still sticks in my head. But I don't know if, like, Kyle's not as dangerous on the feet as what he fought last time against Imavov, but he is dangerous on the ground. Jared's pretty good on the ground. He's obviously pretty good on the feet. He's like really, really solid all around. But it was the slowing down that worried me, Dan. That's the overly what worried me is him slowing down. And I just think Kyle coming from that gym, I think they're going to have a good game plan, and I think they'll execute that game plan and find a way to win this fight. I don't know if it's by finish or decision, though. I'm still going back and forth on that. I'm going to say decision, but it wouldn't shock me if Kyle found a finish.
Yeah, I picked Borralho by by a finish, either submission or knockout. I think he can get.
Okay.
We'll touch on age model real quick. Yeah, like 9-year age gap. Cannonier's 40. He's coming off knee surgery. His last fight was his first fight back from knee surgery. And like, I think going into the fight against Imavov, we were all thinking about the Vettori fight. Like, oh, like all that volume, like what a war. If that Jared Cannonier comes out, then like Imavov is going to have a problem. That Jared Cannonier did not come out. We got that Jared Cannonier for about a round. And then after the first round where he landed, 38 strikes, the numbers just like they flip in Imavov's favor, and they just, the gap gets wider and wider, and he just keeps slowing down. And I just think, we've seen the best of Jared Cannonier. I don't see him winning a decision here, and I don't really see him knocking Borralho out either. Like, he's not finishing guys, even when he's winning recently. The last finish he got was at Derek Brunson back in 2022. And then before that, Hermanson in 2019. But Yeah, like you also touched on, like BORRALHO coming from Fighting Nerds. Like Fighting Nerds is now like probably the premier gym in Brazil, and BORRALHO is like he's like the guy there. He was like the first guy to like come on the scene from that gym, and now they're bringing more people in, and everybody you see come out of that gym is like who's the last person that came out of there? Bruno Brazil. Like,
Wasn't it Silva? Wasn't
well,
Silva?
I think wasn't it Bruno Brazil who just kicked the
Maybe.
shit out of McCann? I think she's like the latest Fighting Nerds. But yeah,
Yes, she did, Dan. Yes, she did. Say it again for the people in the back.
kicked the shit out of Molly McCann. I mean, that was
No
an
one said that. I never heard that from nobody. Might have been the only fucking person. I might have been the only fucking person on the internet who said Bruno Brazil was going to outright just whoop the shit out of Molly McCann and told exactly how she was going to do it too. Fucking owned your asses.
You know,
all right, continue.
That body shot to start.
Dude, that thing was, yeah, it was so good.
As soon as that happened, I was like, "The shit's over." I mean, Molly, she tried, she tried, but it was over. Right?
She gave it her all, Dan. She gave it her all. We gotta though be giving these fighters pluses for like. I mean, this gym is clearly just they're having success. Their game plan, whatever it is, the training, like they know what they're doing, and they're putting these fighters in the best position to win fights.
Yep. And you know, it's just two guys with BORRALHO and CANNONIER. They're both just going opposite trajectories, you know, like BORRALHO, he's going up, fighting better competition. CANNONIER, you know, now he's starting to take steps down, you know, for him. Yeah, I just don't see it for him. You know, I don't think BORRALHO has never been finished. Is he still? He's not undefeated. I don't know. He is still undefeated professionally, or in the UFC at least.
In the UFC, I think he's got one professional loss.
Yeah. His second fight at something called Bradder Fight 3 in 2015. So, you know.
Throw that out. Yeah, throw that out.
Toss it. Yeah, man. I mean, it comes down to mainly an age. I mean, CANNONIER can also win this fight. Like, CANNONIER is a very capable striker. He probably is still a superior striker to BORRALHO, but that's about the only area where I can give him the advantage. BORRALHO's got him pretty much everywhere.
I mean, early he's got to have the striking advantage, but it's like later in the fight, does he have that advantage still? Which he didn't, obviously. Like you said, after that first round, it just the striking flipped. You know, maybe that doesn't happen. If that doesn't happen, maybe he wins a 5-round decision. I find it hard to see that happening, but
I know a lot of people have CANNONIER as well. I just have a hard time getting there. Like BORRALHO, he doesn't have the most exciting fights, but he is like a very sound, smart, technical guy, and I think
smart. Yep.
I think he can get there for sure.
All right, we're both on the Kyle side. You know, I will say though, I'm on a lot of dogs on this card. You know, Jared CANNONIER is by far the best dog on this card, and he's plus 210. It's just like more of like who he's fighting, you know, just from a fighter to fighter perspective. You know what I mean? Because we got a lot of like suspect, you know, fighters on this card. You know, even the favorites. You know, we got a lot of suspect fighters. Jared CANNONIER is not like suspect. He's just kind of getting old, probably. Like he's getting a little older and he's getting a little slower, maybe. Maybe he fixes that though. So we'll see. But we're both on the Kyle side. Dan, who you have as your favorite bet on the card?
My favorite bet? Yo, give me Angela Hill. That's slight.
Oh yeah. Love that. I'm gonna go with Yantop plus 180. I teetered with Leonardo love at that plus 800 number, but I won't give that out as my favorite bet. I like the Angela Hill bet too that you gave. What's like a fun bet? Do you have any like fun bets, like big odds or anything like that?
No, I mean, like I have one more thing marked off. Like I honestly didn't see a whole lot that I loved on this card, like betting wise. But this isn't like the most fun. But like the over 1.5 and Fletcher Ramaska, I took that at plus 100 even money.
Okay. I can get on board with that. My fun bet would be Leonardo. You know,
I don't know how fun that's going to be. He's going to lose, but
I mean, it's plus 800, Dan. Like, you know, you're not betting the other side. I'm getting
you. It seems that like there have been a lot of cards recently where it's like the very worst play on the card is in one of the early fights, and I've got like none of them, and then they just smash. Like a Leonardo 95 will absolutely ruin my fucking day tomorrow.
I struggle to see, even if she wins, her like smashing, like DFS wise smashing. Like I don't think she's getting like a bunch of takedown. I mean, maybe she could.
Michael could fall down and break her arm in the first minute.
Well, she could. She could. I mean, that would be justice because Leonardo's broken her arm in like 2 of her friggin' fights already in the UFC. So she was willing to fight with those broken arms too. That's a fighter I can get behind, Dan. You weren't here for it, but that's Big T. That's my warrior pick of the week. We're gonna make this a thing here. Warrior pick of the week. All right. Dan Hooker was last week. This week it's gonna be Leonardo.
What a drop off! Holy shit!
I know. Hey, I got made fun of for the Dan Hooker bet, so you know what? It's it's fine.
I wish I was here to defend you. I would have defended you.
I needed you here to defend me. I needed defense. He's got no chance.
You can't fade bleach blonde Dans. They're just operating on another level.
That dude is just a savage too. Did you see him on the stool? They're like fixing one of his cuts, and he's like, "I love this shit." I was like, "Yo, that's my guy right there."
Dan Hooker, we saw him fight Jalen Turner at 290, and that's just like if you haven't watched that fight, everybody like go watch that shit. It is an absolute. It's so fun. It's such a war. Dan Hooker's a fucking badass. I can't wait to see who he fights next.
It's such a good fight. All right, Dan, before we get out of here, I'm going to pull up this pick six chart here, and let's just go through it real quick and see if there's anything we can pull out. I don't know if you guys have checked out pick six on DraftKings, but we're going to pull it up real quick, see if we can build out a quick winner here for the people. So they've got a few different categories for MMA, obviously UFC, significant strikes, fantasy points, control time. Let's look at fantasy points, Dan. Does that sound good to you? Fantasy points? See if we can find
find MMA on my pick six here. Oh, here we go.
It's UFC. It's under UFC. But I got it on the screen too. If you just wanna, I can make it a little bigger too.
Make it a little bigger.
So is that better? Yeah. A little. Is that better?
Yeah.
I got fantasy points. Yeah. Is that better? Can you see that?
Yeah, that's much better.
Okay. All right. So just for me looking at it, one thing that sticks out, and I love Zachary Rees, but man, they set these 105.5 lines for fantasy point. That's pretty high, Dan.
That is pretty high. I don't know if I would want to. I think Rees can get there. I think he's gonna knock this dude out pretty quickly.
But this dude is tough. Like if he gets out of the first round and he knocks him out, what's he scoring?
I mean, that'll be 70 for the second round knockout plus, whatever strikes. Like he's got pretty good volume. I wouldn't rule out like a 105 even in a second round knockout because
105 doesn't get there. It's 105.5. He's got to score 106 or higher. All right.
I guess
anything else sticking out to you? I'm scrolling through it right now.
Yeah, I'm looking over here. Borshev 87.5. Like if we think Yantop wins, I mean, obviously,
yeah, we could go less.
If he loses, he's not going to score that. But I think Borshev is going to have a pretty hard time getting to 87.5.
Me too.
Unless he gets an early knockout, which I think Yantop can kind of withstand. Let me see. I
mean, we like Angela Hill. We like Yantop. I wonder where Yantop is. We could go more on both of them instead.
These are low. Leonardo 20.5 fantasy points. I like the under on Leonardo's fantasy points. I mean,
you're just trying to kill my under here. Take Medina's under. What the hell, Dan? I mean, shit.
Yeah, you take Medina. Oh yeah, Medina's under. That's easy. Like he's
Yeah, there
not
you go.
no grappling upside there.
All right, that's 3 right there. If we wanted to roll with Angela Hill, Jan Top, and Medina's under, that's 3 right there. What does that give us here? So let's see, $10, 59. I mean, 3 of 3. I don't know. We could go more. I think you can go up to 6 picks. We don't have to give 6 picks, Dan. But do you see anyone else that kind of sticks out to you? We could check out significant strikes or control time too.
Yeah, let's look at significant strikes.
I think Valentine's interesting too, but let's Michael Morales 72.5, Angela Hill 73.5. Could be a lot of wrestling in there.
Yeah, I gotta spend a little more time. I gotta spend a little more time looking at this. Like throughout the week from now on.
Your boy Shabazian, does he get 30.5?
What are you looking at? Significant strikes?
Yeah. I got it up on the page too.
Yeah, let me just look at his some of his fight stats. Like he might end the fight before he gets there, you know what I mean?
That's like if he wins, it could be quick. I just hate taking those
I mean, dude, when he loses, it happens quick as well. So I mean,
true.
I actually, yeah, I kind of like under 30.5 significant strikes for Shabazian just because he's either gonna win early or lose early. And he probably doesn't get there.
Like, what about under 72.5 for Michael Morales? All the clinching.
Yeah, I like that. Magny's gonna he loves to, like we already talked about, slow a fight down to a crawl. So the under on Morales seems pretty good.
Wrestling control time. Tabitha Richi 430. I think she gets under 430.
Yeah, I'd definitely go under on that.
I mean,
BORRALHO also 430 control time. I think you can probably see more than that. I don't know how good CANNONIER is off his back.
You think he gets more than that? 5 rounds?
I think it's very possible. I mean,
right,
like, are they counting age control, or is this just like on the ground? I would guess like.
How do they count it in the DraftKings scoring? It's the same thing, I think, right? It's got to be the same, right?
Yeah, I think they count cage control time. Maybe not.
I would assume they count cage control time, but I could be wrong.
Something I should know. Right? It feels like they shouldn't, but like if they're getting the stats right from UFC stats, and they're counting cage control, so
yeah. I mean, let's go with that. I think they'd be counting that. So there's 6 right there, though. So we got Angela Hill over 66.5 fantasy points, James Yontop over 41.5, Jose Medina under 22.5, Michael Morales under 72.5 significant strikes, Tabitha Richi under 4.5 minutes control time, and Caio Borralho over 4.5 minutes of control time right there. So if you like a little pick 6 action, look at that. You can throw in $10. You know, average is 107. So, you know, just over 10 times your dough. Even if you get 5 of 6, you might still get a few bucks back. Not bad if you're looking for pick 6.
I think the under for Josiane Nunes significant strikes looks pretty good too. 69.5 strikes for her.
Oh yeah, who should we take out for that? That's a good one.
Yeah, I don't know who to take out, but kind of like let's
maybe take out the Caio control.
You could, yeah.
And then go with her because I kind of like that under. She's not like. I think that's a good under to take. She might have a tough time getting inside. All right, there we go. I like this too. This is solid here. So here's it. I got it up on the screen if anyone wants to throw in the pick 6.
They'd offer this in New York.
They don't offer it in New York?
No, not as of now. Or not the last time I tried to play, but that was pretty recently.
Bam. Picks are submitted. It's easy enough right there. Submit, and we're done. All right, Dan, that's gonna do it here. Any final words before we get out of here?
Oh man. Yeah, try to enjoy this card because there won't be one the following week, I don't think, right? We take a week off. So you know.
I think so, yes. But we still have the Contender Series on Tuesday, right? We still have
Contender Series has been a ton of fun. We've been sweating Contender
Yes.
Series in the chat. We've been throwing bets around. Yeah, Contender Series is great. It's on Tuesday night. Like, it's awesome. And then you get to watch Dana crush people's dreams afterwards. So.
yeah, you get to watch Dana just shit on people after. So, yeah, come hang out in the chat. RPS 15 is the promo code, 15% off. We got a college football package too. If you're interested in college football, that starts tomorrow, first slate of the year. If you want the single sport, so just college football, we have that for you. Check it out, and you can use RPS 15 for 15% off. You can get it for a week, a month, for the year, whatever you guys want. And then, yeah, come sweat out some Dana White Contender Series on Tuesday. And I think we're back for fight night on September 7th, which is Burns Brady, I think is the next fight night here. And then after that, we got the it's the O'Malley card, I think, after that one. So should be a fun little that's the 14th is the O'Malley card. So it's interesting that they don't have a card next week and then take off the first week of football. I know it's on Saturday, but it's just interesting that they don't do that when there's like not much going on. But I guess there's college football next Saturday anyway, so doesn't really matter that much. All right, let's get out of here, Dan. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time. Like I said, come hang out over in the Rump Your Sports Discord. RPS15 is that promo code for Dan and myself, JSU. Hopefully we'll see you in the Discord with some winners tomorrow night. Until then, good luck in your contest.